What's up everyone, I'm Pamela, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I want to talk about the possibility of Stu Macher being the one on the phone with Tara Carpenter in Scream 5's opening scene. In case you're new here, I am a Stu believer. I believe Stu Macher is alive and will return in Scream 7. I think that's what these new movies have been leading up to. So I do believe that there are a lot of Stu clues in both Scream 5 and Scream 6. In fact, I did a video several months ago called 50 Stu Clues. So if you have not seen that one yet, definitely go check it out. But before we get into today's video, please don't forget to give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any of my future posts or future theories like this one. You can also follow me over on TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram. You can also become a channel member here if you're interested. You can find the join button on my channel, or you can follow the link down below in the description. And please also go subscribe to my second YouTube channel. Let's get into it. So, like I said, I'm a Stu believer. I believe he's alive. There have been several clues in Scream 5 and Scream 6. I believe that Stu has been present in one way or another in the past two movies. And I think that one of those times could be in the Scream 5 opening scene. I think there's a good chance that Stu was the Ghostface on the phone with Tara. And here's why. So starting off, this Ghostface on the phone seemed to know a lot about Christina Carpenter, who we know also dated Billy Loomis in high school and got pregnant with his child, Sam. Billy was cheating on Sydney with Christina. If Christina was hanging out with Billy, then she definitely knew Stu. Billy and Stu were best friends, always hanging out together, planning the murders. And whether Christina knew about that or not, she definitely knew who Stu was. And this Ghostface on the phone with Tara knows a lot about Christina. Stu knew Christina in high school, so it makes a lot more sense that Stu would know this much about Christina over Richie. And I do also believe that Christina is currently working with Stu, but that's another theory for another time, which I actually have talked about in past videos, which I will link down below for you if you haven't seen them yet. But let's say Christina is currently working with Stu. That means they've known each other for like 26 years. So it makes sense that Stu would know Christina very well. And when Tara is texting Amber when she's getting the call on her landline, Tara says to Amber, "I think this is my mom's new boyfriend," which I do think is another clue that Christina is involved with Stu. You know, Christina had a thing with Billy in high school. I think there's a good chance that she knew what Billy and Stu were up to. Ghostface even says to Tara, "Your mother loves the Stab movies."
You don't know Stab? Well, your mother loves that movie. She talks about it all the time in group.
Why would Christina love that movie if she didn't look back on her time with Billy as like a positive thing that she's nostalgic for? I think she craved that dark side, and that's why she hooked up with Stu after Billy was gone. And not to mention, this Ghostface on the phone with Tara really emphasizes that they know Christina from group. I know that this is meant to be like Alcoholics Anonymous or something like that, but I really think that it means Stu's cult. They really emphasize that they know each other from group. I believe they say it 6 times.
I'm a friend of hers from group. Just tell her I'm from group.
Oh, she goes to a group. Hey, once you tell me what kind of group we're talking about, is it? She talks about me in group?
She talks about it all the time in group.
So I think that this is important, and they really emphasized it to make us pay attention to it. So I do think that by saying group, they mean Stu's cult, and I think Christina is helping Stu lead his cult of ghost faces. Something else that makes me think that this could be Stu, when he asks Tara, "Have you ever seen Stab?" she says, "That was like super 90s. And Ghostface responds like, "Huh," almost as if he's insulted.
And it was like super 90s. It was like really overlit and everyone had weird hair.
Because the way Tara says that's super 90s is like kind of an insult, and Stu would find that kind of funny because that was his time. The 90s were his time when he was the killer. Another thing that makes me think this could be Stu is he doesn't know what elevated horror is. When Tara says what her favorite horror movie is, she says it's elevated horror. And Ghostface says, elevated horror? What's that?
Well, it's elevated horror.
What does that mean, elevated horror?
And that's more of like a modern day thing. So someone on the younger side, like Amber and Richie, would know what that is. Someone who's older like Stu probably wouldn't know what that is or care to learn about it because Stu likes the old school horror movies. The number one thing that makes me think that this could be Stu is when Tara forgets about Stu Macher, this Ghostface sounds very offended. When Ghostface is playing trivia with Tara, he asks, who's the killer in the first Stab movie? And Tara responds, Billy Loomis. And Ghostface sounds pretty offended and says, wrong, it's Billy Loomis and Stu Macher.
Oh, I'm sorry, Tara, but that's just not correct. The correct answer is Billy Loomis and Stu Macher. There are two killers in the original Stab.
So it would make sense that Stu would be insulted by this because Stu constantly gets erased from the story. I don't know if you guys have noticed this. I have talked about this on my channel plenty of times. There are multiple examples of this. There are two that I can think of in Scream 2. In the library scene, Cotton says to Sydney, you killed Billy Loomis, remember? Never mentioning Stu. At the end of Scream 2, Sydney says to Mickey, I killed Billy Loomis, never mentioning Stu. And then another scene in Scream 5, during Mindy's requel rules, Liv doesn't know who Stu is. She asks, who's Stu Macher?
Who's Stu Macher?
And there's even another scene in Scream 5 when Sydney and Gail are driving to Stu's house. Gail says she started all of this with her book, and Sydney says, you didn't start this, Billy Loomis did.
No, you didn't. Billy Loomis started this, and we're gonna end it.
So once again, just not giving any credit to Stu. I would say that Billy and Stu both deserve equal credit in starting all of this. Yes, Billy is the one who Roman went to show the footage of his dad cheating on his mom with Maureen. But Billy and Stu killed Maureen together, and then they plotted and planned together for a whole year and carried out the Woodsboro massacres together. So I would say that they're equally responsible. And we know that even in real life, fans of the Scream movies kind of give Billy more credit than Stu. People think that Billy was the leader and he's like the main Ghostface. So if Stu is the Ghostface that's on the phone with Tara, it would make perfect sense that he would get offended that she didn't mention him when asked who the killer in Stab 1 is. And then something else in this scene that makes me think that this could be Stu. Tara, just like Casey, gets a warm-up question and a bonus question. And it's like, how would anyone know that Casey got a warm-up and a bonus question? Billy and Stu were the only ones there for Casey's death. So Stu, being alive, would remember how the conversation went with Casey. And this part isn't in the stab scene with Heather Graham as far as we know. We've seen the Heather Graham scene in Scream 2 and Scream 4 during the Stabathon scene. And in this scene, there's no mention of a warm-up question or a bonus question. So it would make sense for this to be Stu on the phone with Tara because he remembers how the conversation went with Casey. Now take a look at this clip. Right after Ghostface gives Tara the bonus question, Ghostface pops out of the shadows to attack her again.
Do you think I made it inside your house before you could rearm?
And this, in my opinion, just feels like the person on the phone is not the same person who attacks her, because Tara would hear the voice coming from behind her. So that's just another little clue that this could very well be Stu on the phone while Richie or Amber attacks Tara. There are endless clues that Stu is alive, especially in these new movies. They talk about Stu a lot, and there are a lot of clues. I just think it's pretty obvious that this is where they're headed, which I'm super stoked about. I cannot wait to see it happen. I could go on and on talking about Stu for days. Like I said in the beginning of this video, I did a 50 Stu Clues video months ago, so if you have not seen that yet, definitely go check it out. I will link it down below in the description. But that's it for today. Those are a few clues of why I think this was Stu Macher in Scream 5's opening scene. Please give this video a like and leave a comment down below and let me know if you're a Stu believer. You can also follow me over on TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram, and I will be right back.